Good evening, this is Siva. I'm going to be talking about Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. He was a very famous author. He was like an absurdist, which is basically somebody who believes that pretty much like life is random, like things, like kind of like, is like everything's ridiculous in life, not in like a funny haha way, but more in like a sad kind of existential way. Like there's no, he doesn't really believe in God or like that there's a plan for our lives. He believes more like things are just random and you just sort of make your own luck, and like things just in the world are kind of meaningless. I don't know, like meaningless things. It's like events just sort of come and go, and there's no like rhyme or reason to what's happening in your life. And this book was published in like 1915, and he had kind of a, I don't know, I'm speaking of sad, he had a kind of a sad upbringing. He had a very like tyrannical father. They had a very negative relationship with each other. He always wanted his father to approve of him and be proud of him, but his father was really into status. He was really into money, and I mean, he always had a much more powerful position than his son ever did. Franz was kind of like a little bit sickly when he was young, and later on he developed tuberculosis, which is what he died of at 40. He was pretty much raised, his mom had some kind of, I don't know if it was a family business. She had a job outside the home, and so he was pretty much, sorry, those are my cats. He was pretty much raised by nannies, and I do know that the family spoke German. They were German Jews, but the nannies spoke Czechoslovakian. So I know that there was some problems socially with him, in that he wanted to, he was more comfortable with the Czech language than he was speaking German. He had two brothers, and I'm not sure why they passed before him, but they did. Perhaps disease at that time. I mean, he only lived to be 40. He died of tuberculosis. I think I already said that. Anyway, he also had two sisters, and they lived until the Holocaust, and they ended up both dying in concentration camps. He never did sort of have a good relationship with his father. He never married or had a family, although he very much wanted to do so. He was a clerk, like in a kind of bureaucratic office for the majority of his adult life. And this is a theme like in most of his books. Like his most famous book, I would say, is The Trial, which is kind of an interesting novel. It's like basically the book starts off with like he's in like, you know, like I guess like in England they have like more like a much bigger like place where they put the person who's on trial, like I don't know what you call it, like cabinet or whatever they put them in. It's like, it's kind of like a raised thing, pulpit, I guess, I don't know. And he starts off the book and it's like he's on trial for something, but he doesn't remember having committed any kind of crime, and like the whole book is basically like him trying to figure out what he did wrong and like why is he there, why is he on trial. And of course it's like a lot of absurdists or existentialists, it's a metaphor, and you know, it has to do with like society and how he doesn't feel part of it. He feels alienated, and he feels, you know, I guess because of his unresolved relationship with his father, like on a psychological level, he feels dismissed by his father. So like the judge is his father, and the jury is like society, and then it's like, you know, he loses, right? Like by the end of it, like, he's guilty. So Metamorphosis, the reason I'm bringing this up, I wanted to talk about, since I'm disabled, I have like a visual reading writing issue that, like, if you go to my websites, I'd like talk about it in detail, or watch any of my other videos. They're all under Eva Sanford. It's like Sanford and Son on YouTube, or you can look at my threads off Instagram. I put a lot of stuff on there. I put a whole bunch of stuff about this, and I had done a whole video on Frida Khalo, who was a famously disabled Mexican, like, I guess, like the most famous Mexican artist, and about her experience as she, when she was a girl, like maybe 18, she was riding a bus. I want to say Mexico City, but that's probably not right. City bus. And it crashed, and the pole, like, you know how you hold on to a pole when you're on a bus or a train, it actually went through her pelvis and out her back. And so they had to like take her and the pole to the hospital, and obviously she had surgery to have it removed, but she was never the same again, and she suffered like the rest of her life from it. However, that didn't stop her from becoming like this incredibly well-known, like the prima donna of painting in Mexico. And she's an interesting person. I mean, she always wore elaborate costumes of her country and did her hair, and she had like special jewelry that had a lot of cultural significance. She married Diego Rivero's like the other renowned famous muralist of Mexico. Not the best husband, as he did cheat on her quite a lot, and even with her sister. So, but whatever, they were artists together and lived their life together. And then she had like some political stuff going on, like they got real chummy with, I think it was, I can't remember his name, but I'll go through that in another video, with this Russian spy who was expat in Mexico. That's a whole story. Okay, back to the Metamorphosis. The reason I chose the Metamorphosis to talk about disability, oh yeah, threads. It's threads in my Facebook. They're all under my full name, which is Eva Violet, like the purple flower, Sanford. And Metamorphosis, I'm not gonna edit that. It's all basically about a salesman named Gregor Samsa, just a regular guy, and he wakes up one morning, and of course it's a metaphor and it's not. Like in the book, it's not, but you can take it out of context and kind of figure out like what he's trying to get at. Okay, Gregor wakes up to his alarm to go to work. He basically is supporting his whole family, which is his sister, his mom and dad. His dad apparently lost out on some business deal and lost a ton of money. So he's helping pay his father's debts. And his mom has like arthritis or something, so like she stays home. And then his sister, she's a teenager, she's becoming like a young woman. And so they're very like, they're very like, I guess, generous of spirit to him because he's supporting them, and you know, he feels before this accident happens that he is like very well loved by his family. Then what happens is one morning he wakes up, and the metamorphosis is he is actually turned into an enormous beetle. Like he's on his back, so he's on the shell, and his little like insect legs are like in the air, and he doesn't understand at first what happened, and then he realizes what happened, that he actually is not in his real body anymore. He's not in the body that he was born in anymore. He's in a strange form that he doesn't understand. And it's just strange. Like, it's not like he freaks out about it as much as you think somebody would, but it's like he just sort of is more concerned with, like, how's he going to get through his day? Like, how's he going to get to work like this? And how's he going to eat like this? How's he going to get dressed like this? Like, it's just, kind of surrealist. Yeah. And there's, like, a lot of, like, comic strips and, like, different presentations of this all over YouTube. And so he tries to get out of his room and go get ready, but that's when his family sees him and they all freak out because he's like a giant insect. And his father is actually really mean to him, and it's like he's trying to go through the doorway, he can't get through, so his dad just like shoves him really hard, and it's like he cuts like his side open, but he doesn't like try to help him or anything, like with the pain or the bleeding or whatever. And so he ends up scurrying back to his room, and his sister brings him like bowls of milk, and then his boss comes to the door. Like, I think he's been like a perfectly good employee up until then, so it's kind of like, I don't know why his boss is like, oh, you missed one day of work, so I'm gonna come over to your residence. But he does, and the family is like lying to the boss and trying to like say he's just sick. And meanwhile, the sister's trying to get him something to eat, and she first gives him like bowls of milk, but he doesn't like those at all. So then she ends up bringing him like scraps of like, I guess like leftovers or something, like maybe the bones of the meat or something, and somehow some rotted food. I don't know what that's about, but she does, and he eats that, and like he finds that he likes that, and he can't stand the milk. So then they kind of get in this pattern where the sister only comes in there if he's like hidden, like if he's under the bed or behind a sofa. Like, she doesn't want to see him. Like, she's totally disgusted by him. And at first, like, they used to be best friends. Like, at first she's nice about taking care of him, and it seems like she does care, but that changes. The family realizes they all have to pull their own weight because they don't have him like financially backing them anymore. So the father goes out and gets some kind of job that he's okay with getting. The mom ends up finding something she can do at home, so she doesn't have to worry about her health problems. She can work from home. And then the sister becomes like a salesperson, which actually works out for her because she gets to socialize more and she feels more grown up. Meanwhile, Gregor can't do anything. I mean, he doesn't know how to use his new body. It's completely klutzy. He can't hold anything because he doesn't have hands. He can't like go anywhere because everyone will be like uncomfortable around him. Nobody wants to be around him. And he can't talk, which is like really where his relationship with his family goes super south, because it's like he can't communicate to them anything, so they don't really understand what's bothering him most of the time. But they're also jerks to him. Like, his sister pretty much turns on him, and she gets in this attitude like, I didn't want to be a caregiver. Like, I wanted Gregor to like spot me, like to have like some kind of coming out ceremony for like to find a husband, like when they had balls or whatever, where girls used to do that, to be announced and finds a suitable person to marry. She's like, I don't have anything now, and like now I have to work all day and then come home and take care of him. And she's really resentful because she's the only one in the family who has to deal with him. And so she gets really shitty because it's like, being a caretaker, you can't just have your own life. You have to constantly take care of someone all the time. And it's like, if you want to go out or if you want to do things, it's like you have to wrap it around that, you know? So it's like, she feels really like put out in that way, because it's like she feels like it's unpaid labor, and she misses the brother she used to have. She doesn't like who he's become. She wants the old Gregor back. She doesn't like anything to do with this. And then there's this talk kind of among the family, like whispering that, like, you know, he really is an imposition, and would have been better if like he had just removed himself. Like, they're like, well, if he was really Gregor, he would have just spared us this, and he would have just run off when he realized what he was, and how inconvenient and how unhappy we all are. He would have just, you know, removed himself from us so that we didn't have to go through this. So they're real selfish, and of course, like most people, they don't think like anything would ever happen to them. I mean, I know for me, like, never in my entire life did I ever imagine I would, you know, pay money for a disability policy, like, or a clause. It's never occurred to me, like, literally never even crossed my mind. And if I would have done that, I would have gotten, you know, a huge part of my salary. Like, I don't even want to talk about it, but it's like, it would have been let's just say it would have been life-changing. But no, I did not do that. So now I'm on disability, which in America, I'm very grateful for it, but it is not, especially with the current prices that are going up, it is not, there's really nothing left over after you pay the bills. And with all the prices going up, I think there's an enormous amount of people on disability who are not able to even do that. And it's like, you do get Medicare, correct, but there's just, I went over that in another video, so I'm not going to repeat myself. There's just a lot that goes into it. It's like, it's a great thing, but it's also like, sometimes there's things that you need for your care that are completely not on the coverage whatsoever. And as far as like activism for disability, like, that's something I plan to get hugely involved in. And that's, you know, besides gun violence, that's gonna be my like numero uno thing. I'm really into advocating for crime victims. That's something I feel passionate about. Anyway, back to the book. I'm not going to go on and on about it. I pretty much just told you the whole story. At the end, it just gets super sad. Like, his sister always played music, and that's like his favorite thing to do, is listen to her play music. But they had to get tenants to be able to afford their rent, even though they're all working. I guess they're not making enough compared to Gregor's salary. So they end up getting these 3 tenants, and they don't tell them about Gregor. But one day he comes out and they see him, and then they decide to leave. They don't want to live there anymore for obvious reasons. And then the father is like super mad at Gregor, so he throws these like hard apples at him and like hurts him. And so he finally it's just super tragic. The only person who's nice to him is like the housekeeper who comes in, and she only comes in once a week. She's super nice to him, so she always opens the window so he can look out and stuff, and she's kind. But that's it. So he quits eating the meals that the sister brings, or when she tries to bring him food, he makes a point of being like out so that she would see him, so then he knows that she won't stay in there and feed him. So he ends up starving to death because he hates who he's become. He doesn't want to be useless. He doesn't want to have nothing to do. He doesn't want to be unloved or discarded. he decides that he just thinks his family just wanted him for, it was like conditional love. They just wanted what they could get out of him. And then when he had nothing to give them, they did wish him dead. They did. They wished he would have not maybe dead, but, to have left and never to return. So what does this story have to do with disability? Well, it's pretty obvious. When he wakes up, he's in a body that he doesn't recognize, which, I'm not just talking about my own disability. Of course, I've met plenty of people with all different kinds of disabilities. I spent at least a year going to the blind center because they have a low vision area that I would go use the equipment at to read. They have all these machines where you can read stuff that I can't normally do. And I learned a lot there. They teach you like how to use your phone to like do all these accessibility things that I struggled with to figure out on my own, really, because I couldn't read it all. And I guess it's like now it's been like over 6 years. I honestly, it doesn't make sense, but I know that I've read and wrote normally since I was a little kid. So, for years and years and decades, right? But like now it's like I can't, it's been so long since I've actually it's been that long since I've actually sat and tried to like just leisurely read something, which is what I wanted to do all the time. People used to bug me about it, but I haven't sat and leisurely read something just for pleasure in years, and it's just too uncomfortable. And I guess if reading wasn't my favorite thing to do, that wouldn't really be, or my livelihood, that wouldn't be such a big loss, but it would be more like a functional loss. Like, okay, now I can't do like a lot of regular stuff that you need to do to function in life, but it's more like just like the pleasure and enjoyment and the leisure and the just something I used to do. And now it's like I try to remember what it was like. It's so strange. It's like if I've only been like this for 6 years, like you would think all those years I did it, I would have so many more memories, and it'd be much, much, much more present in my mind. But I don't know what it is, but for some reason it's like sometimes I can picture myself doing it, but actually having feelings, like feeling it, like feeling how I felt when I did that, it's like I have some sort of mental block. It's like I won't let myself, I guess I just don't want to face it or something weird. I don't know. It's unconscious. It's not like purposeful. But I would imagine like if you woke up and, you didn't have use of your legs, or you lost your arm, or, all the many different kinds of disabilities people have, or you're blind, or, you had hard of hearing. Like all these things that could happen to you. Like we just take all these things for granted. It's like if you woke up and you had forgotten, like that did happen to me when I first had my brain injuries. I would wake up like dreaming that I was the old way, and then thinking I had to go do a professional job, and then I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh right, I can't do a professional job anymore. Okay, right. It's just like you're just like, wow, this new reality, and Now that doesn't hardly happen. I'm used to being like this, but I did go through a period where it was like a surprise every day. I think that that's what he's talking about. He's talking about that. He's talking about also like our whole society is so individualistic and it's so built on purpose and like providing, like everything's about money and making money and being productive, and everybody has to be busy all the time. And like when people greet each other, it's almost like they're competing, like who's busier than the other person, even if they're retired, or even when people are on vacation, they like plan these itineraries that are like insane, and it's just like everybody's on the go, everybody's like taking all these photos that they post on their social media, and it's just everything's kind of, it's like people aren't like, it's like they're not really present in the present tense living. They're like on their, well, I'm guilty of that. They're so focused on their goal, they're like living for tomorrow, or it's like, I guess it also, this whole book could also be used as the metamorphosis about aging, because some of the things that happen to somebody who's disabled definitely happen to all of us. When we get older, we can't do the things we want. We end up in an aged body that is not how we see ourselves. Look in the mirror, that's not who we recognize, and so like eventually everybody's going to have this experience on some level. It's going to depend on the company you keep and like how you feel about yourself and what you do for a living, and how you enjoy your time when you're not working, and like have you developed interests, or like can you afford to function? All those kinds of things are gonna matter, but it's like eventually everyone is going to end up waking up in a body they don't recognize. It's just how life is. We all change, like the metamorphosis, like we are ever evolving. Like I am certainly not the 16-year-old I once was. I'm not the pregnant 32-year-old I was. Like we're never not changing. But I guess the point of disability is like it's not a change you purposely made. Like you didn't choose to become this way. It's like life chose it for you, I guess. And now it's your job to get used to it and become, I guess, try to keep your old self, but adapt to the new body, adapt to the new reality. And how do you balance that? Because in the book, it's like people don't treat you the same. They look at you different. This is all true. You can't really be your real self because it won't be people just don't like it. And I don't know, it just makes them feel away. I think maybe just maybe awkward, like people just don't know what to say or what to do, and so it's like it's just uncomfortable unless you're with someone else who has been through similar things and then they understand it. But then there's all this weird competition between people who have disabilities with each other. Like that's a whole other thing. I don't know. That's just human nature, I guess, but I found that shocking. But and then he doesn't have his role in life. Like he can't go to his job and do what he normally does. He can't do his routine for the morning. Like all that's changed. I guess that could even be compared to somebody who gets laid off, or when AI takes over and people don't have the same jobs they used to have. I mean, people will feel a loss of identity if that's how they identified themselves. Or sometimes when people have been married long term or had children, and then the children all go off and live their lives, it's like, we all go through all these metamorphoses, and like sometimes we know way ahead of time what's going to happen and we still react poorly. But in the book, it's like you know, he can't do the things he used to do. People are afraid of him. He realizes that the love people felt for him was really based on what he could provide for them and not on his company of who he was in his soul, like, or it wouldn't have mattered what he became, like, at all, if they had truly, you know, felt that way, like really loved his essence. This wouldn't have even, it would have been an adjustment, but it wouldn't have been like a cutoff, like that's it, we'd rather you were dead. And that's why I posted some of those articles that are political, but you know, I don't want any political comments. You know, we're all allowed to choose how we feel about stuff, and you know, definitely things I've gone through in my life have made me much more passionate about things that in the past I might have, like, I don't know, I was always kind of a spitfire, but I might have tempered more. But now I'm just like, whatever, you know. You never know what's going to happen to you in life. I might not be here like next week. Who knows what's going to happen to people, you know. So I'm going to just be myself 100%. You know, whoever likes me, and whoever doesn't, if there's a million other people in the world, go talk to them, I guess. I don't know. So, Gregor, I guess I'm going to end it with just, you know, these are things that happen, and nobody talks about it. And you really don't have any time to prepare for it either. It's like one day you're one way, and the next day you're somebody, you know. I know that after my injury, like one day I did all the things I normally could do, and then the next day I could never do like some of the most important things I did. Like, it was gone. And for a long time I thought, okay, well, once I get, I guess, through some of the rehab, and I get through like some of the hard stuff, like I really thought I'm gonna gain it all back, you know, like this is just like, this is gonna be my comeback. I'm gonna like totally go back to the way I was. But I remember, this is the last thing I'll say, is that I was in the eye doctor's office, and it was like the first one I went to, I think. And like, we were looking at my scores, whatever, and looking at where I was, and then, you know, he basically told me he was going to write me this letter, and just that I could carry with me and give to people, and it would clarify that I wasn't going to be able to read normally ever again. And I was just kind of like, excuse me, what did you say? And it was like, no one had like said that to me at that point. It must have been like 2 years in or something. And it's like it was the first time I heard like, yeah, you're not going to be able to like work your way back, you know, like, no, that's not going to happen. And it's like I burst out crying, and then it's like he had another client, and it was a kid, and I didn't want to be like, you know, acting like that. So, you know, crying. So I just like left and didn't really ask anything about it. I just, you know, read the letter in my car as best I could, because I had like, and I just had these weird, like, I had all these stupid devices I got from like the Blind Center. I could like look at it with like magnify stuff. I mean, they're really clumsy looking. I would never use them in front of people, but I could understand what was going on, and I was just like, why did nobody tell me this sooner? Like, but then I was like, well, maybe like nobody wants to tell you, you know, like nobody wants to like have that conversation. So like everybody puts it off until it just can't be put off any longer, you know? Because it's not like you're dying or something. It's just like something you really, I don't know. I'm going to end this. I don't want to talk about this anymore.